Sarah woke up early on Saturday, the morning sun filtering through the curtains of their cozy little apartment. The excitement bubbled inside her as she moved about, preparing for the weekend trip she had planned for weeks. It was just her and her daughter, Mia, a spirited 6-year-old with bright blue eyes that sparkled with curiosity. The two of them hadn't had much time together lately, what with Sarah balancing work and taking care of things at home. This was their chance to escape the noise of the city and create some wonderful memories in nature as they packed their car. Mia helped by arranging their snacks in a colorful backpack. "Mommy, can we have a picnic at the top?" she asked eagerly, bouncing on her toes. Sarah smiled and ruffled Mia's hair affectionately. "Of course! We'll have the best picnic ever with sandwiches and juice." After loading the car with all their gear, hiking boots, a blanket, and plenty of tasty treats, they finally set off. The road wound upwards through thick pines and vibrant wildflowers, and Sarah felt invigorated by the cool mountain air flowing through the open windows. Mia hummed happily along to her favorite songs playing on the radio, her laughter echoing in the small space of the car as they climbed higher into the mountains. The scenery transformed into breathtaking views filled with rolling hills and distant peaks shrouded in mist. "Look at all those trees," Mia exclaimed, pressing her face against the window. Sarah glanced over at her daughter's excited expression and couldn't help but feel a swell of joy. This trip was already turning out to be special. They reached a scenic overlook where they stopped to stretch their legs. Sarah took Mia's hand as they stepped out into the fresh air. The view was spectacular. A vast expanse of green valleys below them met by jagged mountaintops above. "It feels like we're on top of the world," Mia shouted gleefully. After soaking in the beauty around them for a bit longer, they hopped back into the car and continued their journey up the mountain road. They chatted about everything from Mia's favorite animals to what kind of fun activities awaited them once they arrived at their destination. But as they drove deeper into the mountains, something unexpected happened. Suddenly, there was a strange sound under the hood, a loud clunk followed by an unsettling silence that left Sarah's heart racing. She immediately pulled over to the side of the narrow road, her pulse quickening as she turned off the engine. "Oh no," Sarah muttered under her breath, dread creeping into her thoughts as she tried to figure out what had gone wrong. A quick glance at Mia revealed wide eyes filled with concern mirroring her own feelings. "Mommy? What happened?" "It's okay, sweetheart," Sarah reassured as she unbuckled herself from her seatbelt and opened the door to step outside. She could see that they were far from any other cars or people, which only added to her anxiety. She walked around to pop open the hood, hoping that somehow it would magically fix itself or that she would find something obvious wrong. But instead, all she saw were wires and parts that made no sense to her at all. "This isn't good," she thought nervously. Mia climbed out after her, still clutching her backpack tightly against her chest. "Are we going to be stuck here?" she asked softly. Sarah knelt down so she could look directly into Mia's concerned face. "We're going to be just fine," she said with forced optimism while trying to mask her own worry. "I'll see if I can figure this out." As Sarah took a deep breath and examined things further, it became clear that they might need help, and soon. The mountain road wound ahead like a ribbon of adventure, stretching into the unknown. Tall pine trees formed a protective canopy overhead, their dark green branches swaying gently in the cool breeze. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the pavement, adding an enchanting atmosphere to their journey. Sarah drove. She felt invigorated by the beauty surrounding her, filling her heart with a sense of freedom at every twist and turn. The views expanded, revealing breathtaking sights that made Sarah want to pull over and take it all in. She could see distant mountains cloaked in mist, their peaks piercing the sky like ancient guardians of the earth. The valleys below seemed to stretch endlessly, painted in shades of emerald and gold. That it was as if nature was putting on a show just for them. "Look at that, Mommy," Mia exclaimed, pointing excitedly at a patch of vibrant wildflowers that sprinkled color across the hillside. "Can we stop there? They are so pretty." That made Sarah's heart swell. A simple outing had transformed into a magical journey for her daughter, who was bursting with curiosity and wonder. "We will, sweetie. There will be plenty of spots to explore," Sarah promised with an encouraging smile as they drove deeper into the mountains. The road became narrower and a bit rougher, with occasional rocks and bumps reminding them that this was no ordinary route. Yet the challenges only heightened their sense of adventure. Sarah navigated carefully around curves, guiding the car along as it climbed higher toward their destination. The fresh scent of pine filled the air, mingling with hints of wild lavender that grew along the roadside. Each inhale brought energy and joy that made Sarah feel alive. This trip was exactly what they needed. A break from routine and an opportunity to connect with nature and each other. "Do you think we'll see any animals?" Mia asked, her eyes wide with excitement as she scanned the trees. "Like bears or eagles?" "Maybe," Sarah replied playfully, allowing her imagination to soar. "Or maybe a family of deer. Just remember to be quiet so we don't scare them away." Mia nodded solemnly as if she were on a secret mission to spot wildlife. Each giggle and squeal from Mia echoed in kind with the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves. After several more minutes of driving and many awe-filled exclamations from Mia about the sights outside her window, they approached a promising overlook. The gravel shoulder offered just enough space for them to stop safely. Sarah parked and turned off the ignition before they hopped out into the sunlight. Standing on that rocky outcrop felt like stepping onto a stage set against a masterpiece backdrop. The view was stunning. Rolling hills undulated beneath a blanket of clouds while patches of sunlight danced across the landscape. "It feels like we're on top of the world," Mia shouted joyously, spreading her arms wide as if embracing all of nature itself. "Exactly," Sarah replied while taking in a deep breath, feeling energized by the purity of it all. The moment was perfect. The sky was blue, Mia laughed freely, and everything seemed right in their little universe. But just as quickly as joy filled their hearts, reality pulled at them when they remembered they still had miles ahead before reaching their hiking trail. With renewed excitement about their picnic planned at the top and eager thoughts about what adventures awaited them there, they got back into the car. Though this mountain road held its challenges, a narrow path with steep drops on either side, Sarah felt ready to face whatever lay ahead with Mia by her side. She glanced at her daughter's beautiful face glowing with anticipation in the sunlight. Together, they were on an adventure unlike any other. No worry or fear could dim that sparkle as Sarah continued navigating the winding mountain road. A sense of exhilaration filled the car. The beauty around them was captivating, yet there was an underlying thrill in the air, as if nature itself was whispering secrets of adventure. Mia giggled and pointed out every flower and bird they passed, her excitement infectious. But then, just as they crested a hill with a stunning view of sprawling valleys below, the mood shifted without warning. A loud thud echoed from beneath the hood, followed by a sputtering sound that made Sarah's heart drop. The engine began to groan and shudder before it finally fell silent, Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she instinctively pressed on the gas pedal. Nothing happened. Panic surfaced as she pulled over to the side of the road, her mind racing through 1,000 worries. "Mommy? What happened?" Mia's small voice broke through the haze of anxiety. "I'm not sure, sweetheart," Sarah replied, trying to keep her tone calm as she unbuckled her seatbelt. She stepped out of the car and walked to the front, feeling a wave of dread wash over her. There they were, parked on a narrow stretch of road surrounded by towering trees and distant mountains, far away from any signs of civilization. Peering under the hood, Sarah was greeted by a confusing array of wires and tubes. It looked like an alien landscape. Nothing made sense to her. She closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath to steady herself. "Okay," she whispered to herself. "You can do this." She opened her eyes to see Mia still seated in the car, clutching her backpack tightly with wide eyes reflecting concern. "Mommy? Are we stuck?" Sarah forced a smile and nodded in her daughter's direction. "I'm going to check it out," she said with more confidence than she felt. "Just stay right there." Mia nodded but continued watching closely as Sarah examined what little she understood about engines. She lifted various parts while trying to remember basic tips from car maintenance books she had skimmed through once or twice but realized it was all too overwhelming. Nothing seemed out of place at first glance. It felt like an unsolvable puzzle. After several minutes of tinkering with wires and peering into cramped spaces where no light reached, frustration bubbled up inside Sarah. How could this be happening now? They were so close to their destination. She glanced around, taking in their remote surroundings. A dense thicket of trees lined both sides of the road, and not another car in sight. Mommy, I want to go. Mia's voice pierced through Sarah's thoughts like a sharp arrow. I know, honey, Sarah said softly while stepping back from the engine bay. She turned to look at Mia's worried face through the open-door window. It's okay. I just need to figure this out. But deep down, uncertainty gnawed at her. She glanced at her phone on the passenger seat and picked it up only to see that the signal icon displayed just one lonely line. Barely enough for a text message, let alone a call for help, that a wave of frustration washed over her again. No service? She muttered under her breath. Mia, she said as calmly as possible. We might need help soon. Help? Like someone is going to come find us? Mia asked hesitantly. Exactly, Sarah replied, though inside she felt less sure about that outcome. Mia squirmed in her seat. Sarah saw tears pool in her daughter's eyes as fear crept in for both of them. But what if nobody finds us? We'll be fine, Sarah reassured with a determined look on her face. We're just going to take our time. As they sat together in silence for a moment, with only nature's sounds filling the air, birds chirping and leaves rustling, Sarah felt an overwhelming urge to make everything right again. They were alone here amidst beauty, but trapped by uncertainty, and somehow that was both frightening and oddly comforting at once. Taking another deep breath, she knew she had to stay strong for Mia because they were not just on an adventure. They needed each other more than ever in this unexpected moment of challenged. As Sarah stood by the side of the car, a wave of panic surged through her. The picturesque mountains that had once filled her with excitement now felt like towering giants watching her struggle. She took a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions in check, but frustration bubbled just beneath the surface. Why now? She muttered, glancing helplessly at Mia still seated inside the car, her little face reflecting concern. Mommy, I don't want to be stuck here. Mia's voice quivered, breaking through Sarah's racing thoughts. Her daughter's worry tugged at Sarah's heart, pulling her back to reality. I know, sweetheart, she said softly, forcing a smile despite the tightening knot in her stomach. We'll figure this out together. With renewed determination, Sarah turned back to the engine, reminding herself that she needed to channel her energy into finding a solution. She remembered bits and pieces from the articles she had read about basic car troubles. Checking fluids, looking for leaks, and inspecting belts. But all she saw were confusing parts that seemed to meld together in disarray. Okay, let's see, she muttered while leaning down to peek under the hood again. Her hands fumbled as she prodded at wires and knelt closer to inspect what she could. Inside, anxiety was twisting like a tempest. Each second felt like an eternity as dread filled her thoughts. What if they were stuck here for hours? What if no one passed by? Is it going to start again? Mia asked with wide eyes from inside the car. Sarah glanced back at her daughter and saw the shadow of fear in Mia's expression. It made her own heart sink deeper. I'm not sure yet, she admitted honestly. But I promise I'll do my best to make it work. Stepping back momentarily, Sarah wiped her hands on her jeans and took another deep breath. She fought hard against the growing sense of helplessness. She couldn't afford to panic. They had come so far and had so much left to explore together. Mia, she called gently, trying to shift her focus away from the car trouble and onto something more positive. Why don't you help me think of things we could do while we wait? Remember all those fun activities we planned for our hike? Mia perked up slightly at the mention of their hike. Yeah, we could look for animal tracks or see who can collect the prettiest rocks. Her voice had a fresh spark of joy that was contagious. That's right. Let's check out what we can find around here. Sarah tried to sound cheerful while battling that anxious knot inside her chest. But as both mother and daughter surveyed their surroundings, a sea of trees surrounding them, Sarah felt trapped in more than just a broken-down car. It was as if they were ensnared by nature's beauty yet cut off from everything else. She began pacing anxiously alongside the vehicle. Remember when we talked about bears? Mia piped up again, feeling brave as curiosity sparked within her. What if we see one? Oh, honey, Sarah replied with a nervous laugh, though it helped lighten the moment. Bears are probably asleep right now. The conversation shifted back to giggles as they imagined bears snuggled up in their cozy caves while swinging sticks and pretending to be lumbering creatures themselves. But deep down, Sarah couldn't fully shake her worry. Every minute spent without a solution felt heavy. After another futile attempt under the hood yielded no results, frustration bubbled over again. "Why can't this just be easy?" she exclaimed more loudly than intended. Releasing pent-up feelings, Mia gazed at her mother with wide eyes. Concern crept back into their small bubble of optimism in that moment of vulnerability between them. Sarah knelt down beside Mia with sincerity glowing in her gaze. She needed her daughter to see strength amidst uncertainty. "Listen," Sarah said softly after swallowing hard to steady herself. "We're going through a tough time right now, but whatever happens, I promise we're in this together." Mia nodded solemnly as they locked eyes in understanding. A shared bond against the unexpected storm they found themselves weathering on this mountain road. Now more than ever, they needed each other's strength to face what lay ahead together. As Sarah and Mia sat beside their car, surrounded by the majestic beauty of the mountains, hope began to fade. They had been waiting for what felt like an eternity, and each passing minute only heightened their worries. Just as Sarah was about to suggest they take a short walk to ease their minds, she heard a distinct sound from the trail, a rhythmic crunching of gravel underfoot. Turning her head, Sarah caught sight of a figure approaching them. He was tall and fit, dressed in comfortable hiking gear with a well-worn backpack slung over one shoulder. His friendly demeanor was evident in his easy smile and twinkling blue eyes that sparkled with kindness. "Hey there," he called out, waving as he got closer. "Everything okay?" Sarah felt a rush of relief wash over her. "Not quite," she admitted, trying to maintain a composed expression despite the anxiety still swirling inside her. "Our car broke down, and we're stuck here." The hiker stopped just a few feet away and took a moment to gauge the situation. "I'm Jake," he introduced himself with a warm smile. "It looks like you could use some help." "Yes, I'm Sarah, and this is my daughter Mia," she replied, grateful for his willingness to assist. Jake's approachable nature made it easy for her to let her guard down, if only just a little. Mia peeked out from behind Sarah's side, her curiosity piqued by this friendly stranger. "Are you a ranger?" she asked innocently. Jake chuckled softly at Mia's question. "Nope, just a hiker enjoying the great outdoors today. But I know my way around these mountains pretty well." He looked at Sarah again, his expression serious yet reassuring. "I can take a look at your car if you'd like." "Would you?" Sarah asked, hope flickering back into her heart. "That would be amazing." "Sure thing. Let's see what we can do," Jake said as he moved closer to the front of the vehicle. He pulled on a pair of gloves from his backpack and knelt down to examine the engine with an air of confidence that put Sarah at ease. While Jake focused on the car, Sarah watched him closely, impressed by his willingness to lend a hand without hesitation. He seemed to have an innate kindness about him, an aura that suggested he genuinely enjoyed helping others. "I love hiking in these mountains," Jake remarked casually while checking various components under the hood. "They've got some of the best trails in the area." "Yeah, we were looking forward to hiking today," Mia chimed in with her voice brightening as she leaned against the doorframe of the car. "But now we're stuck. Don't worry. We'll get you back on your adventure soon enough," Jake encouraged with a grin aimed at both mother and daughter. Sarah felt relieved not just by his words but by his attitude. There was something comforting about how he carried himself, calm and collected even in unpredictable situations. She couldn't help but admire how effortlessly he took charge while still making sure they felt included in the process. After examining several parts under the hood, Jake straightened up and scratched his chin thoughtfully. "It looks like your engine is overheating," he explained slowly, as if gauging how much technical detail they could handle. "We might need to add coolant or check for any leaks." "Coolant," Mia echoed, furrowing her brow in confusion. "It's something that helps keep the engine cool," Jake explained patiently as he walked over to grab supplies from his pack. He retrieved water bottles filled with liquid and showed them to Mia. "Here's some water I always carry when hiking. This should help cool things down." As he poured the water carefully into the radiator, Sarah felt gratitude swell within her heart. This stranger had stepped into their lives at just the right moment and was ready to assist without any expectation in return. "Thank you so much for helping us," Sarah said sincerely, feeling lighter with each passing moment as they worked together towards solving their problem. "No problem at all. It's what we do out here," Jake replied with a shrug but smiled brightly. With each minute that passed, under Jake's guidance, Sarah began to feel more hopeful about their situation than ever before. Perhaps they would still continue their adventure after all. And it all started with one kind-hearted hiker who simply wanted to help as Jake knelt by the engine. Sarah felt a mix of gratitude and nervousness. She watched him closely, hoping he could solve their problem. "So, what do you think?" she asked, her voice tinged with hope. Jake looked up from beneath the hood, brushing a few strands of hair off his forehead. "Well, it seems like your engine is overheating," he explained calmly. "It's probably due to low coolant levels or a leak somewhere." He gestured towards the various components, speaking in an easygoing tone that made it less intimidating for Sarah to understand. "Coolant," Mia echoed from her spot near the passenger door, still feeling a little shy but curious about the situation. "It's a liquid that keeps your engine from getting too hot," Jake explained patiently, looking over at Mia with a friendly smile. "Think of it like water for your car, just like we need water to stay cool and hydrated when we play outside." Sarah felt relieved that Jake was taking the time to explain things in a way that both she and Mia could grasp. "Do you think we can fix it?" she asked, trying to mask her underlying concern with curiosity. "Absolutely," Jake replied enthusiastically as he rummaged through his backpack. "I always carry extra water when I hike. It can help cool things down." He pulled out several bottles filled with bright blue liquid. "This should work perfectly." As Jake poured the coolant into the radiator, Sarah leaned forward to watch closely. "Is this something I could do myself in the future?" she asked, eager to learn how to handle similar situations on her own. "Definitely," Jake said cheerfully. "It's good to know some basics about your car. I can walk you through it if you'd like." He finished pouring and capped the bottle before wiping his hands on his pants and turning back to Sarah. "That would be great," she replied appreciatively, feeling empowered by the thought of being more knowledgeable about car maintenance. "I really want to be prepared for whatever comes next." Jake nodded encouragingly as he examined the engine one more time. "You've already taken an important step by being calm and focused during this situation," he praised her. "That's half the battle right there." Sarah felt a warmth spread through her at his words. They were just what she needed to hear at that moment. It reminded her that even in tough times, there was room for growth and learning. As they stood together beside the car, Mia wandered closer and peered curiously at Jake's backpack filled with hiking gear. "What else do you have in there?" she asked innocently. Jake grinned as he noticed Mia's interest. "Oh, just some essentials. Snacks for energy," he said while pulling out a granola bar, wrapped in colorful paper, "and my trusty first aid kit." He showed it to them proudly, as if revealing hidden treasure. Mia's eyes widened with excitement. "Can I see it?" "Of course," Jake said as he unzipped the bag further and pulled out various items. Band-aids, antiseptic wipes, and even some trail mix packed neatly in small containers. "Wow, you're like a superhero," Mia exclaimed with awe. Jake chuckled lightly at her compliment and said, "I try my best. You never know what you might need when you're out here exploring." Feeling lighter now that they had some support and encouragement from Jake, Sarah joined in on Mia's enthusiasm. "Maybe we can all go hiking together after we get this sorted out," she suggested playfully. Jake's eyes lit up at the idea. "I'd love that. There are some amazing trails nearby. I can show you my favorite spots." Just then, Sarah noticed something. A gentle breeze carrying sweet scents from nearby flowers danced around them as laughter bubbled between them all. The earlier weight of worry seemed to lift slightly as camaraderie began to bloom in this unexpected scenario. After checking everything thoroughly one last time, Jake stood up straight again and wiped his hands together triumphantly. "All right, that should do it. Let's give it a try." With hearts pounding in anticipation, Sarah climbed back into the driver's seat while Mia settled beside her, eagerly watching each move. Taking a deep breath, Sarah turned the key in the ignition. Immediately they heard a reassuring hum. The engine roared back to life. "Yes!" Sarah cheered as relief washed over her once again. Mia clapped her hands excitedly and turned toward Jake with shining eyes full of gratitude. "Thank you so much." "No problem at all," Jake replied graciously while flashing them both another warm smile, one that made them feel safe amid their mountain adventure once more. After the engine roared back to life, relief swept over Sarah and Mia like a warm breeze on a summer day. The three of them, Sarah, Mia, and Jake, stood by the car for a moment, reveling in the success of their teamwork. With the sun shining brightly above and birds chirping cheerfully nearby, Sarah decided it was the perfect time for a picnic. Now that we're back on track, how about a little snack? Sarah suggested with a smile as she opened the trunk of her car. Mia's eyes lit up at the thought. Yay! I love snacks, she exclaimed, bouncing on her toes. Jake chuckled at Mia's enthusiasm. Count me in, he said, leaning against the car, his easygoing nature making it feel like they had known each other for longer than just that day. As Sarah pulled out a colorful blanket from the trunk and laid it on the grass, Mia eagerly rummaged through the picnic basket filled with goodies. We've got peanut, butter and jelly sandwiches, some apple slices, and my favorite chocolate chip cookies, Mia announced proudly, holding up each item like they were trophies. Chocolate chip cookies? Now that sounds like a celebration, Jake replied with an approving nod. After setting everything up on the blanket, they all sat down together. Sarah couldn't help but notice how comfortable it felt to have Jake there. It was as if their shared experience had already created an unspoken bond among them. As they began to eat, conversations flowed effortlessly. Sarah took a bite of her sandwich and looked over at Jake. So, what brings you out here today? She asked, genuinely curious. Jake took a sip from his water bottle before answering. I come up here often to hike and connect with nature, he said with a hint of passion in his voice. There's something about being in the mountains that just clears my mind. He glanced at Mia, who was munching on her apple slices. What about you and Mia? What inspired this trip? We wanted to escape the city for a bit, Sarah explained. It can get overwhelming sometimes. I thought a weekend in nature would be nice for us to bond. She smiled at Mia, who nodded vigorously in agreement. I want to see bears, Mia chimed in between bites of cookie. Jake laughed. Well, there are definitely bears around these parts, but don't worry. They usually stay away from people unless they're looking for food. Do you see bears often? Mia asked wide-eyed, clearly fascinated by the idea. Not really, Jake replied, shaking his head. I've hiked these trails many times and have only spotted one bear in all that time, but I always keep an eye out. Sarah loved how engaged Mia was in conversation with Jake. It reminded her of her daughter's natural curiosity and adventurous spirit. It felt good to share this moment with someone who appreciated nature just as much as they did. As their lunch progressed, they exchanged stories about their lives. Jake shared tales of his hiking adventures across different states, while Sarah recounted her own experiences as a single mother navigating the challenges of work and parenting. Each word seemed to draw them closer together. You know, Jake said thoughtfully after finishing his sandwich, it takes a lot of courage to raise a child on your own. You're doing great. His compliment caught Sarah off guard but warmed her heart. Thank you, she replied sincerely. Some days are harder than others, but moments like this make it all worthwhile. You're right, Mia piped up excitedly. And now I have my adventure buddy. Both Sarah and Jake laughed at that comment, feeling an instant camaraderie grow between them as they finished their lunch. Jake pulled out a small bag from his backpack filled with trail mix and offered it to Mia. Want some? He asked with a friendly grin. Yes, please, she replied eagerly, grabbing a handful and happily munching away. After enjoying their snacks and sharing more lighthearted stories, Sarah glanced around at the beauty surrounding them. The vibrant colors of wildflowers dancing. In the gentle breeze and towering trees providing shade above them, it felt like their little picnic in the mountains was not just a simple meal, but also the start of something special. A newfound friendship shaped by unexpected circumstances. Thank you for spending this time with us today, Sarah said genuinely as they prepared to clean up. Of course. I had a blast, Jake replied warmly. And if you're ever back in these mountains again, you know where to find me. With smiles on their faces and hearts feeling lighter than before, they packed up their picnic supplies, knowing that this chance encounter had turned into a meaningful connection that neither would forget anytime soon. As they settled back onto the blanket after their picnic, Mia couldn't help but gaze at Jake with wide-eyed admiration. She had been entranced not only by the stories he shared, but also by his enthusiasm for adventure and the outdoors. It was as if he had stepped straight out of a storybook, a friendly guide in this vast wilderness. Jake, she said, her voice bubbling with excitement. Have you really climbed to the tops of mountains? Like actual mountains? Jake laughed softly, pleased by her enthusiasm. I have. Just last summer. I hiked up a mountain called Mount Adams. It took a whole day, but the view at the top was incredible. You could see for miles. Wow. Did you see any bears? Mia asked breathlessly, clearly captivated by the idea of wildlife roaming freely in those majestic lands. Not on that hike, unfortunately, Jake replied with a grin. But I've seen plenty of deer and even some eagles soaring above. Once, I spotted a group of mountain goats climbing on a rocky ledge. They are amazing climbers. He leaned closer to Mia, his eyes shining with excitement. If you ever hike some trails here, keep an eye out for those amazing animals. Mia's face lit up at the thought of spotting her first deer or eagle. What do we need to do to see them? She asked eagerly. Well, Jake began, adopting a mock-serious tone. You have to be very quiet and patient. Animals can sense when there are people around. If you walk slowly and look carefully, you might just catch a glimpse of them. He extended his hand and pointed towards the nearby thicket of trees. And don't forget to look up. Birds love the treetops. Sarah smiled at how animated her daughter was, enjoying this moment of wonder. She watched Jake interact with Mia. The way he spoke to her like an equal made her heart swell with gratitude. Here was someone who not only helped them in their time of need, but also nurtured Mia's adventurous spirit. What else do you like to do when you're hiking? Mia pressed on. I love taking photos of nature, Jake replied enthusiastically, reaching into his backpack again, this time pulling out a lightweight camera. You see this? It's my favorite tool. Jake began sharing some of his best shots. Pictures of sunrises over mountain peaks, close-ups of wildflowers in bloom, and breathtaking views from high cliffs that left Mia gasping in awe. Each photo seemed to ignite more curiosity within Mia. Can you take pictures of animals too? Like bears? She asked eagerly. Absolutely, Jake chuckled. But you have to be safe and keep your distance if you see one. Mia nodded seriously, absorbing every bit of advice he offered as if he were imparting ancient wisdom. Feeling inspired herself, Sarah couldn't help but jump into the conversation. What do you think is the best part about being outside in nature? Jake pondered for a moment before answering thoughtfully. For me, it's about the freedom it brings, he said slowly. When you're up in the mountains, away from all the noise and rush of everyday life, it makes you realize how beautiful everything can be if you just take a moment to breathe it all in. He looked at Sarah with genuine warmth as he continued. And sharing those moments, like today with you both, makes it even more special. That's so true, Sarah agreed. She felt grateful that this chance encounter had blossomed into such a meaningful experience for them all as they wrapped up their picnic and began packing away the remnants of their snacks. Mia turned to Jake with an expression full of admiration. Can we hike together sometime? You could show me all your secret animal spots. Jake's smile widened at her offer. It was hard to say no to such genuine enthusiasm. I would love that, and maybe I could teach you how to photograph them too. Mia squealed with delight as she clapped her hands together. Yes, that would be so cool. Sarah couldn't help but feel a surge of happiness seeing her daughter so engaged and excited about learning from Jake. It sparked hope within her. A promise that every setback could lead them into new adventures and friendships they never anticipated. As they finished cleaning up their area and prepared to continue their journey together, Sarah felt thankful for the kindness of strangers like Jake, who helped create lasting memories amid life's unpredictability. And as Mia skipped ahead, chattering about future hikes filled with excitement, Sarah knew this adventure in nature was just beginning for both of them. And perhaps for Jake too, as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the mountains in hues of orange and pink. The trio packed up their picnic supplies and brushed off crumbs from the blanket. Sarah felt a wave of gratitude for Jake, who had turned what could have been a stressful day into one filled with connection and laughter. Just as they were about to head back to the car, Mia's exuberance brought up another question. Jake, are there any more cool tools you have in your pack? Like magic tools for fixing stuff? Jake chuckled at her innocent enthusiasm. Well, I wouldn't call them magic, he replied with a grin. But I do have some handy tools that help with repairs when I'm out hiking. What kind of tools? Mia inquired, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Well, Jake said, leaning against a nearby tree to explain. I have a multi-tool, which has all sorts of gadgets like screwdrivers and pliers. It's very useful for small jobs. He paused for a moment as if he were recalling something important. I also have a wrench up the trail near my pack that IT might really help with your car if you run into any more trouble. Mia's eyes widened. You have a wrench? That could be magic. Let's go get it. Sarah felt a flicker of hope at Jake's mention of the wrench. Do you think it could help us fix anything else just in case? She asked, her voice filled with renewed optimism. Jake nodded, his expression serious yet encouraging. Absolutely. If we find any other issues or if something else comes up, having the right tools can make a big difference. How far is it? Sarah asked, glancing toward the winding path that led further into the woods. It's not too far, Jake assured them. Just about 15 minutes up the trail. I can run up quickly and be back in no time. Mia chimed in eagerly. Can I come with you? Please? Jake glanced at Sarah for approval before answering. Sure. It'll be a mini adventure for you too while I grab the wrench. Feeling slightly anxious but knowing how much Mia would enjoy this little quest, Sarah nodded. She wanted to support their budding friendship while also ensuring Mia felt included in every aspect of their adventure. All right then. Just stay close to Jake and be careful while you're up there. She instructed her daughter firmly but gently. Don't worry, Mommy, Mia exclaimed as she grabbed Jake's hand excitedly. I'll be super careful. With that promise hanging in the air, Jake led Mia down the trail while Sarah watched them go. It warmed her heart to see Mia so excited and engaged with someone new. In that moment, she realized how important it was for her daughter to see positive role models and friends who shared similar interests as they walked along the path. Jake shared stories about his past hikes and adventures. There's this one time I climbed Mount Rainier, he recounted enthusiastically. The view was out of this world. You could see glaciers and even some wildlife at higher altitudes. Did you see bears? Mia asked again, still fascinated. No bears on that trip either, but plenty of mountain goats. They're such curious creatures. Jake responded as he led them deeper into the serene wilderness. Eventually, they reached Jake's backpack sitting by a large rock near a small clearing. He rummaged through it quickly before pulling out the wrench triumphantly. Found it? He called out with an air of excitement that made Mia giggle. Awesome, she exclaimed as she took a peek inside his pack and noticed other interesting items. Energy bars, a map of local trails, and even a small first aid kit. Okay, we should head back now, Jake said after adjusting his backpack to make sure everything was secure once again as they walked back towards Sarah. Mia chattered nonstop about all she had learned during their short trek, how wild animals adapt to their environments and how important it is to stay safe while exploring nature. When they finally rejoined Sarah at the car, Jake held out the wrench with a triumphant flourish. Here you go. This should help if anything else comes up. Thank you so much, Sarah said genuinely as she accepted it from him. I really appreciate your help today. No problem at all, Jake replied comfortably as they all prepared to continue on their journey together. The anticipation of adventure hung thick in the air now. They were not just strangers anymore but rather companions bound by shared experiences and budding friendships. As they set off down the mountain road again, Mia bounced in her seat with excitement about what awaited them next, with thoughts of animal sightings and nature adventures filling her mind. And Sarah felt hopeful that this day had opened doors to new friendships and unforgettable memories for both her and Emma as they reached the car again. The sun had now dipped lower, casting long shadows on the ground. With the wrench securely in hand, Jake turned to Sarah with a confident smile. This should help if we run into any more issues, he said. His demeanor was calm and reassuring, but a flicker of doubt crossed Sarah's mind. Would you be willing to go back up the trail for the wrench? She asked, glancing from Jake to Mia and back again. Although she appreciated Jake's help immensely, a part of her felt uneasy about leaving her daughter alone at the car with someone she had just met. Mia looked up at her mother with wide eyes filled with trust. I want to go with Jake. It'll be fun, she exclaimed, bouncing on her toes. Sarah hesitated on one hand. Mia's excitement tugged at her heartstrings. It was clear this little adventure thrilled her daughter. On the other hand, Sarah's instincts as a protective mother kicked in hard. She had always been cautious about who she trusted, especially when it came to Mia. Jake seems like a good guy, She thought to herself as she watched him interact with Mia so effortlessly. It was easy for Sarah to see how great he was with children. His patience, his enthusiasm, but it didn't erase her underlying fears completely. "Are you sure it's safe?" Sarah finally asked Jake, trying to mask her worry with a tone of casual inquiry. "I mean, I don't know how well you know these trails." "I completely understand your concern," Jake replied sincerely, sensing her hesitation. He stepped slightly away from Mia and lowered his voice so only Sarah could hear. "But I promise I'm just going to grab the wrench and come right back. Plus, there are plenty of hikers around here today. We're not far from the main trailhead." Sarah considered his response carefully while guilt began to gnaw at her heart. She didn't want to hold Mia back from an opportunity that could foster confidence and wonder, the very things every child needed. "What do you think?" Sarah asked Mia directly, crouching down to meet her daughter's gaze. "Would you be okay standing by the car for just a few minutes while Jake runs up the trail?" "Yes. Please let me go. I'll hold on to my backpack and stay right by him," Mia pleaded earnestly. Mia's excitement was infectious but also made Sarah's stomach twist with apprehension. She finally took a deep breath and nodded slowly, knowing this was a moment not just for Mia but for herself as well, a step toward learning how to balance trust and caution. "All right," Sarah agreed reluctantly but firmly. "But you both must stay close together and come back quickly." Jake grinned widely at their agreement while Mia squealed with delight, bouncing on her feet again. "Let's go," she said enthusiastically as she grabbed Jake's hand once more as they started walking back toward the trail together. Sarah watched them go with mixed feelings swirling inside her, hope for what this day could bring paired with concern for her daughter's safety. She reminded herself that sometimes taking risks led to growth, both for children and parents alike. Mia turned back briefly, before disappearing down the path, waving enthusiastically at her mom as if to assure her everything would be fine. That simple gesture tugged at Sarah's heartstrings. It reminded her of how important it was for Mia to feel empowered and adventurous. Once they were out of sight, Sarah folded herself against the sturdy side of their car and took a moment to breathe deeply amidst the trees that surrounded them like sentinels guarding their journey. The quietness enveloped her as birds chirped in, harmony high above while leaves rustled softly in the gentle breeze. A part of her mind replayed moments from earlier, their unexpected breakdown leading them into deeper friendships with strangers becoming allies amid adversity. It truly felt like an adventure worth having. Just as she began easing into peace over this new dynamic, which was both thrilling and nerve-wracking, her thoughts were interrupted by faint laughter drifting down the path followed by excited chatter from Mia and Jake, returning sooner than expected. The sight of them both made Sarah feel lighter instantly. Mia seemed radiantly happy holding on to some new discovery shared between friends alongside laughter echoing through the woods like music scoring their day together. As they approached each other again under those vast mountain skies painted in twilight colors, Sarah felt assured that trusting Jake had been a step worth taking. One that opened opportunities painted in shades of connection and adventure not just between them but also ignited within Mia's spirit heartily alive with wonderment once more. As Jake and Mia ventured down the trail towards his pack, Sarah stood by the car, her heart fluttering with a mixture of hope and anxiety. The golden hues of the setting sun bathed the mountains in warmth, yet a chill settled in her stomach as she considered what it meant to let her daughter wander off with someone she had just met that day. Sarah's maternal instincts kicked in fiercely. She couldn't help but envision all the what-ifs that haunted her thoughts. What if Jake didn't return as quickly as he promised? What if Mia's excitement led to danger that Sarah couldn't foresee? Each scenario played like a movie reel in her mind, amplifying her worries. The forest seemed too vast, and the trail too winding for her comfort. Yet there was another part of her, a glimmer of hope, that wanted to believe in the goodness of people and in this unexpected chance for Mia to experience adventure. She looked at the bright smiles on both Jake and Mia's faces as they walked away, and despite the unease bubbling up inside her, the thought of Mia building confidence and connections fueled her determination. This was an opportunity for Mia to discover the world beyond their usual city life and to engage with nature fully. Against the backdrop of chirping birds and rustling leaves, Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, recalling every lesson she had learned about trusting her instincts. She understood that part of loving Mia meant allowing her to explore, to trust in others, and to grow from new experiences. even if it meant stepping out of her own comfort zone. Keeping a watchful eye on the trail, Sarah took a moment to breathe deeply, reminding herself that nothing could shake her resolve to protect Mia while also supporting her growth. She felt trapped in a delicate balance between caution and encouragement, a constant push and pull between worry and optimism as she waited. Sarah's thoughts drifted to how different things felt since they had started this journey. The three of them had formed a bond over their shared experiences, a friendship forged under unexpected circumstances. Jake had not only helped fix their car, he had also shown kindness and wisdom that made Sarah feel secure about allowing Mia this moment. Just then, a burst of laughter broke through her thoughts as Mia and Jake re-emerged from the trail, their cheerful voices echoing brightly through the trees. Mia was jumping up and down, beaming with joy as she held the wrench triumphantly in her small hands. "Look what I got, Mommy!" she yelled excitedly while running towards Sarah. Her happiness was infectious, washing away Sarah's worries like the sun dissolving fog. Jake followed close behind, his grin matching Mia's enthusiasm. "I told you it would be quick," he said with a tone of playful pride. Relief flooded through Sarah at the sight of them. Mia's face glowed with exhilaration from both the adventure and their friendship. The tension that had been coiling in her gut began to unfurl slowly as Jake handed Mia the wrench, making both of them laugh. "I can't believe you really ran all the way up there," Sarah exclaimed, unable to hide her admiration for both of them. "Thank you for taking care of my girl," Jake shrugged modestly but with a twinkle in his eye. "It was fun. Plus, I liked hearing all about your plans for hiking," Mia interjected eagerly. "And we saw butterflies. They were so pretty." The exchange brightened Sarah's heart even further. It reminded her how important it was for children to have moments of wonder and exploration. This simple act, their trip up the trail, had become an adventure that would linger in Mia's mind long after they left the mountains. "Let's get this wrench back where it belongs," Jake suggested as they walked towards the car together. With each step forward, Sarah felt more assured about entrusting Mia's budding independence to a kind soul like Jake. She realized this day had transformed not only their situation but also their relationship as mother and daughter, empowering both herself and Mia to embrace life's uncertainties together. Filled with hope for new beginnings intertwined with lessons learned along the way as Mia and Jake returned from the trail, Sarah's heart swelled with relief. The sun had now dipped below the horizon, casting a soft twilight glow over the mountains, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of pine and earth. Mia dashed ahead, practically glowing with excitement as she waved the wrench triumphantly. "Look, Mommy! We got it!" Mia shouted, her voice ringing out like a joyful bell in the quiet evening. Jake followed closely behind, chuckling at Mia's enthusiasm. "I told you it would be quick," he said, his smile wide as he approached Sarah. "Here's the wrench, let's see if we can fix your car for good this time." Gratefully accepting the tool from Jake, Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "Thank you so much for doing this," she said sincerely. "I really appreciate everything you've done today." "No problem at all," Jake replied casually, but there was a glint of pride in his eyes. It's always nice to help someone out, especially when it means getting to share a little adventure along the way. With her trust in him solidified, Sarah knelt by the engine as Jake guided her through using the wrench. "First, we'll check to see if there are any loose bolts," he instructed, placing the wrench in her hand. "Just turn it gently like this." As they worked together, Jake took the time to explain each step, ensuring that Sarah understood what she was doing. Mia watched closely, absorbing every detail with wide-eyed fascination. It was clear that this hands-on experience was not only teaching Sarah about car maintenance but also instilling confidence in Mia as she watched her mother learn. After checking a few parts of the engine and tightening some bolts around the coolant tank, Jake stepped back and said, "All right, that should do it. Let's give it a try." Sarah climbed back into the driver's seat, her heart racing with anticipation. She turned the key in the ignition, and to her immense relief, the engine roared to life smoothly. No sputters or hesitations this time. "Yes," Sarah cheered, her voice filled with joy as she glanced at Jake and Mia, who were both grinning widely at her success. Mia clapped her hands together gleefully. "You did it, Mommy!" And Jake helped. Jake chuckled, clearly pleased with how everything turned out. Teamwork makes the dream work, he said playfully, giving Mia a high -5 as they celebrated their small victory together. A sense of camaraderie enveloped them. It was as if they had formed an unbreakable bond through their shared experiences that day. Before I forget, Jake said, his tone shifting slightly more serious but still friendly, I'd love to keep in touch after this. If you ever come back to these mountains or need tips on hiking trails, just let me know. Sarah felt a warmth spread through her at his offer. I'd like that very much, she replied genuinely. It's nice to meet someone who shares that love for nature. Mia chimed in excitedly. Can we go hiking together? I want to see bears. Jake laughed again, shaking his head. Bears are tricky to find, but if you're lucky and patient like I told you today, you might see some amazing wildlife. As they prepared to leave the area behind them and continue their journey down the mountain road, Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope mixed with gratitude for this day filled with unexpected challenges that had transformed into delightful memories. With Mia bouncing in her seat beside her, chattering about their next adventure and all they had learned from Jake, about tools and animals and nature, Sarah smiled softly. She realized that sometimes life takes unexpected turns that lead to beautiful connections and lessons learned. As they drove away from their familiar car trouble and ventured into new beginnings filled with promise and adventure ahead. Sarah felt certain that this experience would stay with them forever. A heartwarming reminder that kindness exists in surprising places and that friendships can blossom even in the most challenging of circumstances. As Sarah settled back into the driver's seat, the warm glow of the sunset lingered on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Little Mia was still bubbling with excitement beside her, recounting every detail of their mini-adventure with Jake. Her innocent enthusiasm filled the car like a melody, uplifting Sarah's spirits even further. Mommy, did you see how fast we got back to the car? Mia exclaimed, her eyes sparkling like the stars beginning to twinkle in the early evening sky. And Jake was so nice. He taught me so many cool things. Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with affection for both her daughter and the unforeseen friendship that had blossomed that day. He really is a great guy, she agreed, feeling grateful for Jake's kindness and helpfulness. I'm sure we'll have plenty more adventures together. As they started driving down the winding mountain road, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on how much this trip had turned into an unforgettable experience despite its rocky start. The crisp mountain air felt invigorating as they navigated the path through towering trees and patches of wildflowers swaying gently in the breeze. With every turn, memories of their day flooded back. Jake's laughter, Mia's joy as they worked together to fix the car, and the bond they all formed over shared stories and snacks. It was a reminder that sometimes life's challenges could lead to beautiful connections. Can we go hiking with Jake again? Mia asked suddenly, her voice filled with hope and excitement. I want to see bears. Sarah chuckled softly at her daughter's enthusiasm. Maybe next time we can plan a hike together. I think he would enjoy showing you around. With each moment spent together, it became clearer that this momentary challenge had opened up opportunities not just for adventure, but also for friendship as they continued driving. Mia chattered on about their picnic and how she wanted to take pictures of butterflies next time. Sarah listened intently, marveling at how fearless and curious Mia was becoming. Traits that were crucial for exploration and growth. The road began to curve downward, and as they took each bend, Sarah felt lighter in spirit. She glanced over at Mia, who was leaning against the window with her hair flowing gently in the wind. In that moment, Sarah realized how important it was for both of them to embrace new experiences together, to step out of their comfort zones and discover what lay beyond as they neared the end of their mountain journey. A sense of calm washed over Sarah. The previous worries about being stranded had dissolved into fond memories filled with laughter and warmth. She felt thankful for everything that had transpired, the unexpected breakdown that led them to Jake, an unlikely friend who had turned their day around. Upon reaching a scenic overlook, Sarah decided to stop for just a moment longer before heading home. She parked the car, stepping out to breathe in deeply the fresh mountain air one last time before leaving this beautiful place behind. Look at that view, Mia exclaimed as she hopped out of her seat. Racing toward the edge of the overlook, Sarah followed closely behind, wrapping her arms around her daughter as they gazed out at the sprawling valleys below. Isn't it amazing? Sarah said softly, feeling grateful not just for this moment, but for the experiences they would continue to share as mother and daughter. Yes, I love it, Mia replied enthusiastically, her innocence painting a beautiful picture of joy as she took in everything around them as they stood together in awe of nature's beauty. Sarah knew this trip would remain etched in both their hearts. A chapter filled with laughter, learning, and newfound friendships. It was a reminder that even in moments of uncertainty or challenge, light could emerge through kindness and connection. With smiles on their faces and hearts full of gratitude for new friends and lasting memories made on this journey through the mountains, Sarah climbed back into the car with Mia by her side. Together, they set off down the road again, ready for whatever adventures awaited them next.